Howdy and welcome. I'm Kathryn and I am the Aerogarden Homesteader. This is not the video I planned for today, but this is the video we're doing today. I actually have a really busy day ahead of me. I was going to do the peach juice that I had processed a little while ago, but that's not going to happen. I am actually going to be breaking down a bunch of chickens today because chicken was on sale. We needed chicken. And I don't have room in the freezer for it like this, and it's easier for me to use if it's been broken down. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to break down a chicken a little bit. It's probably not going to be the greatest explanation because, you know, I'm not that good at it. I learned how to do it once properly, and, you know, I kind of muddle along. Also, probably not sure I'm on camera here. I'll get the other camera going too. Okay, so I'm going to take the wing off. Generally, if you put it on its back, it's a little easier to see sort of the knuckle where the wing sits. And then you're just kind of cutting around that to get the wing out. There's the bone there. And then once you've got that free, just cut around the back. And chicken wings. I will go through and I'm just going to break everything down. And then I will go back through and reprocess everything. So I will be roasting up the thighs and canning those. So I'm going to do boneless thighs. I will be saving the drumsticks for later use, saving the wings for later use, although I will take the wing tips off and I will save those for stock. I'm going to save all of my bones for stock. I will be freezing all of those together, and then I will be freezing the breasts. So the thighs, I will actually be saving those for canning. I'm going to roast them up today and can them up so they won't take up any room in the freezer. This chicken is still slightly frozen, but that's fine. All right, actually, I want that in there. All right, so you got a chicken, you got your skin here. You're going to take the skin down. You're going to follow it down. There's kind of a, I don't know if you can see this, there's like a natural divide here between sort of the breast area and the leg. So we're going to just follow it down. Comes around on the side, the back. Once I've got it pretty free skin-wise, I'm going to flip it over, and its knuckle is going to be back here. So if I bend it, generally you can pop it out of its socket. Now I try to always keep one clean hand. And I just kind of failed on that one right now because I needed a little extra strength. But there's the bone. I don't know if you can see it. It's right there. I'm going to work it free. I'm hitting bone here, so I'm going to figure out what I'm hitting. There we go. And then just cut it off. It's not pretty. It's not perfect. But it gets the job done. Okay. Chicken breasts, one on each side. Keel bone down the middle. I assume it's the keel bone. We're going to cut to just one side of the keel bone. And then we're going to open it up. We're going to just follow it down. Now, this is a little difficult when you get down to the bottom here, or the top. There's a wishbone here. So sometimes your knife is going to hit it. You just want to kind of work around it as best you can and just feel your way down, opening up the meat from the bone. Just gently pull it away. It's going to be the garbage bowl, I think. So, I don't know if you can see, I'm just gently working it away from the bone here. And again, it's not going to be pretty. Now, like I was mentioning earlier, it is always a good idea to have at least one clean hand because inevitably, this is when your nose is going to get itchy, when you have two dirty hands. It's also a good idea to have a sharp knife and a comfortable knife. Don't feel like you need to have an expensive knife. These were not expensive knives, but they're not really comfortable knives. So I do find that sometimes when I'm using them for a long time, and I have 5 of these to break down, plus a whole bunch of thighs to break down. So I'm probably going to get a blister because these knives have in the past given me blisters. So I would suggest comfort. should be high on your list of buying a nice knife. Okay, I'm gonna take the skin off of this. Should just peel away, but sometimes it needs a little help. Okay, there we go. Basically a boneless, skinless chicken breast. And I paid 99 cents a pound for that because this chicken was on sale. Now you tell me where you can buy conventional chicken, a boneless, skinless chicken breast for 99 cents a pound. You know, I used to be able to get it at the chef store, which used to be called Cash and Carry, which used to be called, it's just changed names. But we used to be able to get like a 40-pound box for $40. That was at its cheapest. And we're not seeing that anymore. Now you have an option here. This is the chicken tender. You can remove it, or you can leave it in. It doesn't matter. It is your choice. It just depends on how you use your meat. I'm actually going to take it out because we're generally used to using our breasts separate from our tenders. So this way I'm getting 2 products out of it. I mean, I'm getting a lot. I'm getting a whole bunch of other stuff, but this way I'm getting, I can save those tenders for another meal. So you can take the skin off first if you want. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to just loosen this up a little bit, get under there, just so I can see the line a little bit better. Now I'm going to go I don't know if you can see that. There's kind of a little bit of a fatty line here. I'm going to go just to that side of it so that I can get on the other side of the keel bone. Now there will be lots of little bits of meat left on these bones. I will roast them up and turn them into a nice stock, broth, whatever you want to call it, bone broth. You can turn it into anything. I will take you along for that, but I will not be doing that soon. I've got so many other things to do, and this was not on the agenda. Okay, this is a little awkward once you've got it down to just the one breast. We'll make it work. Maybe I'll just pull that tender out a little early. Nope, it's still in there. Let's get that off the bone. I'm not going to show you how to do all 5 chickens. I will show you this one, and then I will probably speed through another one so you can see it again. And then I'll just probably turn the camera off at that point. So once I process all of the thigh meat, I'll bring you back and I'll show you how to can that up. Make nice shelf-stable, meal-ready chicken. Okay, skin is what's holding me up. There we go. And now I have a deboned chicken. Now, see, there is meat on here. I can roast this up. I can take this meat off. I can save it so when I make soup, I have meat to go with it. Okay? So I'm going to just put that in there. Take the skin off. You take off any big gobs of fat as well. Check things, make sure there's no little bits of bone. Sometimes the that wishbone will break and stay in the breast. Now this is where 2 hands would come in handy. Trying to stick to my 1 clean hand rule. It just means I don't go around the kitchen touching things and getting chicken stuff all over the place. Okay, there we go. Nice chicken breast number 2. Okay, I am going to pull out a thigh. I'm going to show you how to debone that. I'm actually going to show you how to separate it. So again, I'm not very good at this, but there's kind of like a natural separation between the thigh and the leg. So you cut down there, and if you got it just right, which I didn't, you can go right between the bones. If you want to make it easier on yourself, you can take your 2 hands and pop it completely open, and that does make it a little easier because then you know exactly where to cut. I'm going to leave some skin on the leg. Does not need all of the skin. Boy, skin is slippery. There you go. So that I will just keep just as is. And this I will do a deboning on as well. So obviously you can see where the bone is, so it makes it really nice and easy. I'm just going to cut down until I hit the bone. And then I just kind of want to work my way around the bone. Sometimes it helps to fold it, and you can really pull the skin back a bit better and follow it along the bone. See how that's just sort of coming off right there? Try to keep your fingers out of the way. There we go. Now sometimes there's a little grizzly knuckle at the top, so you want to make sure you cut that off. Keep following it. I feel like I've maxed out this direction, so now I'm going to come from the other side and work it. Once you can get sort of one side loose, then you can work it down this way. There we go, see? Okay, now where's that little... There's a little piece of tendon here that I'm trying to not leave in the meat. Yeah, there we go. Again, it's okay if there's a little bit of meat on the bone because that will just add to the flavor of the stock. I am checking now to make sure I don't have any grizzly bits, sort of any knuckles or anything. And now I can remove any excess fat and the skin, which sometimes takes a little work. Again, 2 hands would be easier, but I like to scratch my nose sometimes. Okay, there's that. We get a little bit here. All right. Now, for this, I will be putting it in a roast pan, and I will be roasting it up so that I can can it. So I'm just going to cut it up into some chunks. I want them to be about 1 inch, roughly. They don't have to be perfect. I get a little of the extra fat off if I find any more. Sometimes there's some fat between the muscle. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I'm not going to be too concerned about it. It will end up in the bottom of the roast pan. So... there we go. Yeah, so this is how I generally hold my knife. It gives me a lot more stability, but it is uncomfortable up here and I get a blister right there. So make sure when you're holding your knife like that, it's nice and comfortable. This is a don't make my mistake type moment. And if I end up with little bits of meat that came off of something, in the roast pan it goes. Okay, I will do the other thigh. So you can kind of see that one again. Oh, here, let me do the wing. The wing should be pretty quick and easy. There's like a spot right between that you should be able to cut it right off. So, stock, chicken wings. Get the other one. Get a nice quick one out of the way. Oops. Try to find the joint there. There we go. I kind of missed a little. It's all going in the bowl together. Okay. Now this one, it's obviously facing the other direction. I'm going to follow it down, find the bone, figure out which side we need. See, I went a little too far on that one. Joint is right. You just kind of feel it a little bit. It's a little higher. But once you can find that spot between the joints, you can cut straight down without any resistance. It does leave, I think I missed just slightly. I left some grizzly bits. Okay, follow the line down the middle. Fold it to one side. And then just work the meat off the bone. Trying to leave the grizzly bits with the bone. I guess it's not really grizzle, it's cartilage. Okay, tacking it from the other side now. Try to always cut away from yourself. Okay, this is the side with the little grizzly bit, so I want to make sure I am leaving those attached to the bone and not the meat. So there, I think I got them all. It's going to go in there. Okay. Take the skin off. Now, I think you can use the skin for making like schmaltz, which is a chicken fat. So just like you get tallow from beef and you get lard from pork, you can get schmaltz from chicken. Never used schmaltz before. I don't know if there's another name for it. I guess it would be called chicken fat. But I've never used it. I've never made it. Maybe one of these days we should try that together and see how it goes. Because you certainly get a lot of fat when you do a whole chicken. And this part does not want to come off. There we go. Okay. Okay, switch knives. This is my chef knife. The other one is a fillet knife or a filleting knife, however you like to pronounce fillet, fillet. Might just leave that in there. I don't know if I get, oh, maybe I can get it out. There we go. Okay, into the roast pan. Okay, so that is pretty much one chicken broken down into, what do we get, 6 pieces? Got 2 breasts, 2 thighs, 2 legs, 2 wings. Oh, that's like 8 pieces. So, and then in this bowl, I should just have mostly bones and stuff for stock. I do have the wings in here, but that's that. I'm going to start a new chicken. I will probably speed this part up. I'm not going to talk through it, but you could slow it down if you really want to watch again. I mean, you could just rewind and watch again. It does not matter. But I will have it again, just in case. This will help reinforce the lesson, I hope. If it happens to come with a neck, which I didn't actually check if the first one did. Oh yeah, it looks like it's got the organs in there too. Save those for the stock. That's good stuff for the stock. I might just keep that in there. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So the fillet knives are really nice because they have got a nice sharp point on them. And so it can really kind of just pull that meat right back. You can do this with a chef's knife. I used to do this for years using my chef knife. And you know, if you want, another use for all of this chicken skin is, I mean, you can literally just roast it in a pan flat with some salt or seasonings on it and use it like croutons, or I'm sure you could like powder it up and use it for breadcrumbs. Because I know someone out there is probably saying, no, don't throw those out, that's the good part. I think my knife might need to be sharpened. There's a lot to put it through. Okay, yeah, there's a little, yeah, if you feel with your finger, you kind of figure out where to cut. There you go. Right there. It is really close to that fat line. That's why I keep trying to cut at that fat line. Knife definitely needs to be sharpened. There's some nice big chicken breasts there. Okay, there you go. Another one down. Another carcass. Do some legs. And then I will move on to the next one. Only 3 more after this. Okay, so sometimes the little knuckle part will separate. So you just kind of have to cut around it to get it out. Which, sometimes it's easier to take the bone out first and then get that out. Do whatever works. It does have a little bit of a tendon attached to it, so this is where I'm at. These are all of the thighs cut up from 3 whole chickens and 2 packages of bone-in skin-on chicken thighs. I've got 2 more chickens to process, but I'm going to save those thighs just as whole boneless, skinless thighs. Just chuck those in the freezer. I feel like this is plentiful, so I'm going to get this in a 400-degree oven. It's going to go in for about 30 minutes, give or take. I want to par cook them. I want them mostly cooked, but they don't have to be fully cooked. But they do have to at least be partially cooked before I can put them in cans and can them up. So this is where I'm at. I will probably put You know, I might just leave them alone. I can always season them afterwards, but I will be putting them in a broth, so the broth will have some flavor. But this is where I'm at. These are going in the oven. I will probably stir them halfway just to rotate things around a little, make sure it gets even cooking. And then I will bring you back for the canning portion. I'm almost ready for the next step. So the chicken is almost done in the oven. I am getting my canner ready, I'm getting my jars ready, and I'm going to get some hot stock ready so I can put it on the chicken. So I keep my ring separate just because I find that sometimes it stretches out when it's kept in the canner. I have my weight, which is set for my elevation, which is next to nothing. I'm going to put my tray in the bottom. I'm going to get a little bit of oil. I'm going to oil up my ring just a smidgy bit, just to make sure it's not dry and it goes in nicely. I don't want a lot, just a little bit. I'm going to make sure it seats in the groove correctly. Now this is an older Presto model. It does have a gauge on it, but you know, when I bought it from another lady, and I don't know the last time it had been tested, and then trying to get it to the extension office, which I don't even know if mine does the testing. It was just worth it for me to get the weight for the top. It was just one less thing to have to worry about. And you know, when it comes to food safety, that's just not something you want to mess with. Okay, I will need to get about 2 inches of water in here, which I will do right now. Okay, that is about 2 inches of water. I think there's a certain amount I'm supposed to put in. I did read the instructions once, but I don't remember anymore. Now I'm going to put my jars in. Now I'm going to get this on about just slightly lower than medium high. And I'm going to put my jars in. I'm using 1.5 pints. I'm going to put a little bit of water in. And like I said, I keep the lids on my clean jars so I know that there's no crud in there, but I do want them to be warmed up when I'm putting in the hot chicken. So putting in a little bit of water does help with the warming process. Now I don't know if I have enough of these 1.5 pint jars, so I will go with what I've got and just have to go from there. This one's a true 1.5 pint. These ones are, I have a hard time finding these ones. There, I have to fill this one up. Okay, there we go. They're all filled up, ready to go. So I'm just waiting for the chicken to get a little bit more cooked. But the chicken, I mean, I can cook the chicken all the way through, it's fine. But I need to get these warming and I need to get some stock warming. It is important with a pressure canner to not fill it up all the way. This is pressure canning, not water bath canning. So the water level needs to be below the lid. Just read the instructions for your pressure canner. Make sure you have the appropriate amount of water. You need enough water to last the whole cycle, but you absolutely cannot cover the lids when you're pressure canning. I'm going to get my stock going. So I've got about 5 cups of water in there, just according to the measure on the side of the pot, which I know is not that accurate. And I'm going to put in some fake Better Than bouillon. So for every cup I need to put in 1 teaspoon. So I'm just going to whack in a bunch. Doesn't have to be super accurate. I mean, I just don't want to put in water. I want the chicken to have a little bit of flavor, and this is the best way to do it. So this is also on about the same temperature, a little shy of medium high as the jars. This is also hot from the water, or hot from the tap water, so it'll come up to temperature a little bit better. The chicken is essentially done, so I will be turning the oven off and letting it rest in the oven for a little bit. And any juices that have accumulated, if it's not too fatty and greasy, I might just incorporate it into each jar or into this stock. But if it's too fatty, I don't want to put that in the jars because too much greasy stuff, you know, oily stuff will go rancid faster, although I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem. But if it gets up between the lid and the seal, it can cause seal failure, and that I really don't want. So I'm going to get this mixed up, I'm going to bring it up to temperature, and then I will bring you back when I load the jars and get those in the canner. Okay, well I hope I found the right spot to show you everything that needs to happen next. The chicken is out of the oven. The jars are warmed up. The stock is warmed up. I'm going to go through and empty the water from my jar. And I'm just going to start filling. Helps to have a funnel. So I'll fill up each jar most of the way up. The headspace is 1 inch. I think they have changed the guidelines for raw chicken, so make sure you check the guidelines. I mean, this is food safety after all. We don't want to have anybody getting sick from home canned stuff. Now this is a debubbler, but it's also a press that chicken and get it down into the nooks and crannies tool. You can use anything. Try to avoid metal, because if you scratch your jars, it's really not good for your jars. Pay a lot for these, and it would be a shame to render them useless. Okay, that might be a little too much, but let's see what happens when try to fill in the nooks and crannies a little bit better. Oh, you know what? That can actually probably take another couple little pieces. Okay, that's probably it. There we go. Get the funnel back. Now I'm going to fill this up to within 1 inch headspace with the broth. And this is where the debubbling tool is going to come in handy, because I really don't want any bubbles in here. Bubbles are not good. So I will get it as close to the inch as I can. And then from there, I will just run this down the sides. Try to get out any bubbles that might be in there. Okay, that's probably just one too many. Okay, I will check. I am at 1 inch, but some of my chicken is sticking out. It's probably okay, but I do find that sometimes when things are sticking out of the liquid, they do tend to discolor a little bit, so if I can avoid that, I will. Let me double check that again. So my liquid is just slightly below the 1 inch mark. I will just add just a tiny bit more. I do want it as close to that 1 inch mark as possible without going over. Oh yeah, that's great. Now, because stuff happens, I want to make sure all of the grease is off the edge here before I put my flat on. And this is also an opportunity, although a bad one I might add, to check to see if there's any chips in the jar. So if you feel any chips, you can't use it, it probably won't seal properly. I'm going to put my flat on, my lid on. I'm going to go until it connects, then I'm going to give it just a little bit more. You'll kind of feel it'll be easy to turn, and then all of a sudden it'll meet a little more resistance. That's about where I turn it to. Now this is piping hot now, so I will use my jar lifter to get that in my canner. Next jar. Now I will probably just, well, I will either cut this part out or speed through it. I mean, really, you probably don't need to see me filling up a ton of jars. I will at least show you another one. This one's a narrow mouth, but I will show you this one coming together as well. And then, like I said, speed through or cut, because this does get a little repetitive and boring. Now I will double check the processing times. I believe that for pints it's 75 minutes and for quarts it's 90 minutes. I will make sure I have the correct time below in the show notes and on screen. This is a pint and a half. There are no guidelines for a pint and a half, which means I have to go with a quart. And that is fine because, again, food safety. I would rather it be slightly overprocessed than unsafe. We'll get another lid. Again, turn until it connects, and then just turn a little bit more until you feel the resistance. It will take some practice, but practice makes perfect. Just don't over tighten. If you over tighten, it doesn't allow the pressure to escape, and you could have, well, you would either have an unsafe situation, or you could buckle the lid, and then you will have a jar that won't seal. Which again, it's not the end of the world. Just put it in the fridge and eat that one. But if you're trying to put this up in your pantry for long-term storage, it's frustrating to have a jar not seal. And then you're forced to eat it when you weren't planning on eating it. I'm bringing you along for the last jar for a reason. I'm actually going to save the stock that was in with the chicken, and I'm using a 2-part lid. So I thought, well, while I'm at it, I will just show you the 2-part lid and how it works. You know, I may not pour that. That is like an accident waiting to happen. I'm not going to strain this or anything. I'm just going to put it in as is in a quart jar. Now, it's fine for me to put this in with the chicken because the chicken requires like 90 minutes of processing. Broth does not. Broth requires less time. It does require pressure canning, but it is fine for me to mix this with the rest of them, as long as I can fit the jar in. That might be the big one. I might actually have a little more stock in this than will fit in this jar, which is fine, because I can always use that later on. This will require slightly less than a 1-inch headspace. Now the reason for that is because I'm using a reusable lid, and they do require slightly more headspace than the flats. So I'm looking for 1 1/4 inches here. Okay. I threw my flat in the hot water. I'm just going to fish that out. And a trick for that is if you want to warm up your seals, keep it in the ring. Because then you can pick the ring up, you've got everything all together. Yeah, it's hot, but there. So I lift it out, I hold the gasket in place, and I flip it over onto the jar. Now I know it's good. I didn't wipe the jar, so that's a bit of a problem. Get that off. And it does appear to be really fatty on top. So you know what? I might take some of that extra fat off. Again, this is probably that schmaltz we were talking about earlier, because I got a little bit left in the pan here. And it's really not good to can that much fat on top. Alright, well, what was supposed to be a quick little add-on has just turned into a much longer process. Alright, well that looks a little bit better. Let's see what we got left in the pan here. Oh, that's still quite a bit. Okay. Let me see if we can get a little more fat off. So I'm looking for that 1 1/4 inch headspace with less fat, obviously. Okay, I like to hold onto the rubber gasket, flip it over onto the jar, and then the band goes on. Now the trick is you put one finger here and you turn it. I'm not forcing my finger down, I'm just holding it. So you're going to turn until the jar turns, and that should be enough. I'm going to back that off just a little bit because I think it went a little further than it normally would have. It's a slightly different lid. And I'm going to get that in the canner and hopefully it fits. Yes, it fits. Oh, that's a tight fit. Alright. Now that I have my canner full, I'm going to turn you a little bit to show you my full canner with my reusable lid. Looks like the lid's upside down, but it's not. Okay, I gotta get the lid on. So I need to bring this up to a boil, gently. So I've got it on medium-high, and that's probably where it'll stay until I put the weight on, So I need steam to come out of here, and my sign for steam is when the little rubber petcock in the middle here, the little safety valve, when that pops up, I start my 10-minute timer right then and there, because I know that it is starting to steam at that point. And I'll set my timer for 10 minutes, and then I have to put my weight on. At that point, I'm timing for the actual processing time. I will bring you back for that. And there we go, my little safety valve has popped up. I will get my timer going for 10 minutes, because I need to vent the steam out for 10 minutes. And then once that is done, I can put my weight on. But this is why it's really important that your valve is clear of all obstructions. I'll bring you back when I put the weight on so you can see how that goes on and watch it jiggle. Okay, there you go. My timer is done. I'll turn that off and put the weight on. This is the correct weight for my elevation. And then once that starts doing its little dance, I will start my timer. So the hula dance won't start until this is up over 10 pounds of pressure. This is not to be trusted. I have to go based on the weight. That's just something to keep into account when you're using the weight. And I just looked up the guidelines. So we're doing a hot pack of chicken without bones. We're essentially doing quart jars, so I need to do 90 minutes. And my elevation is between 0 and 1,000 feet, so I'm using 10 pounds of pressure. So it's got the extra ring on it to give it 10 pounds of pressure. And just in case you're curious, if you're doing meat stock or broth, which I did a hot pack as well, I did a quart. It would only be 25 minutes, but it's at the same pressure, 10 pounds. So yes, my broth will be slightly overprocessed. I don't really care. I just wanted to get it canned up so that I don't have to have it taking up space in my fridge and I can use it later. Okay, that's my little dance. Set it for 90 minutes. Sorry, my arm is in the way, but I don't want to reach over the steaming part. Okay, there you go. So this is about where I want to keep it. So I will slowly turn the temperature down as it goes to prevent it from rocking too much. But I have to keep it rocking. If it stops rocking for any reason, then I will need to restart my timer after I bring it back up to a rock. And I really don't want to do that. So I am going to be close by, keeping an ear out for this and listening, and turning my heat down. You see, it is starting to jiggle a little faster, so I'm going to continue dropping it down. I don't want to do any sudden temperature changes. It's really not good for the jars in there. But I will just keep dropping it down until I maintain a steady rock. And I think it goes down to about 2 or 3 on my stove for my conditions, for my situation, for my, this is my kitchen, this is how low I think I need to have mine. So I will just continually drop it down until I get it to that nice slow rock. Allowing the pressure to come down naturally is part of the canning process. As you can see, although it says I'm at 0, my safety valve is still up, so there's still pressure in here. I'm just going to have to wait a little longer before the pressure is completely dissipated and it's safe to open the lid. The safety valve is down now, so I'm going to, okay, no pressure. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to just lift it and turn it, and I'm going to leave it like this for 10 minutes to allow it to acclimate a little bit longer before I take the jars out, and I'll bring you back at that point too. Time to get these jars out. So I want to lift the lid, generally try to lift away from you. Sometimes it has some water in the bottom, so I'll drip that off. Okay. I want to get my Tattler lid out first because I need to tighten that one. And again, it does have liquid on the top. I'm going to leave that on the top. Blot that off just a little bit. Now I want hand protection because this will be hot. I'm just going to crank down on that. There we go. Now I only do that with Tattler lids. Don't do that with any of these other lids. Now I've also noticed that if the jar is boiling like this when I take it out, it will seal nicely. So I have one jar in here that is not boiling like that, so I actually don't think this jar is going to seal. This one is not boiling. I don't think it's going to seal, but I am willing to be pleasantly surprised. I'm going to get these out. The next step after this is to let them sit on the counter for at least 12 hours, preferably longer. And after that, I want to take the bands off and wipe everything down, make sure it's not greasy when I put it in the pantry for storage, and I will store without the bands on. That is essentially, that's it. The process is pretty much done at this point. So we got some nice chicken to put up in the pantry for later use. And believe it or not, my water actually looks really good. I don't always have that happen, but I did not get any siphoning this time, which is awesome. Means this will be a little easier to clean up. So the chicken has sealed, and how you can tell is when you take the band off, you should be able to lift it by the band. Now this is the one that I didn't think would seal, and it appears to have sealed, but it's actually a false seal. So you can see, or hear, that there's a difference in tone. Tattlers also have sort of a dull tone to it. Dull. It's a high dull tone, but see how this one is really low and dull. So this one's got a false seal. It may not be a false seal, it may just be a weak seal, and so it had enough heat to suck the lid down and create that pressure, the vacuum in there, but I don't think it's going to hold long term. So I'm actually going to put this in a location. I'll either stick it in the fridge or I'll just keep it on the cupboard where I can see it, and I'll try to use it within the next week or 3. So it should be fine. It won't unseal, but over time it could potentially unseal, and I'd rather just not deal with the loss of food. So it's sealed. That's something to take into account. When I always tap the lids, and you'll see other people on videos, I've seen it, where people will go through and they'll tap their lids. This is why. You're testing for this weak seal, and you just want to keep your food safe. So I will use this first. I will clean all these up because they are a little greasy. There was a little bit of the fat that came out. I don't know if you can see, my hand is it's got a little bit of that greasy chicken stuff on it. So I'm going to wash these up, label them all up, put them in the pantry, and they will be good to go. I hope you've been enjoying these videos. If you find this one useful, please like and share. It would really help me out, and it would help other people find this video and maybe help them out too. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I will see you next time on the Aerogarden Homestead.